Hello, and welcome back to the Imposter Syndrome series. I'm M, CEO of the Soul Focus Group and Super Coach. And once again, I'm always eager and excited about the conversations that we're having around this imposter syndrome. And the reason why I'm so excited about it, because it's high time we really address these issues that really are at the core of why we are not as effective as we can be. Now, I'm not blaming the victim, because in most cases, we elect to not show up as our authentic self because of fear of what may happen if we show up authentically in the workplace, what may happen if we show up authentically in our lives. But at the same time, we need to have a very frank and upfront conversation about what part of showing up as an imposter are we responsible for. I clearly talked about how our number one job and priority is to accurately represent ourselves. That is the job of our mind, to accurately represent our own internal reality. And no one at any time knows, at any given point, knows what the state of your internal reality is for you. And if you are not responsible for it, then that means your internal reality never gets communicated if you don't accept responsibility for it. Now, let me say this. There are always consequences for everything in life, and consequences are not always bad. Consequences is a way of saying for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. There is always something that is produced from every action we take. Some of those consequences are good, some of them are bad, some of them are neutral, some of them are ugly. My point is, consequences are a natural part of life, and you cannot get around them. Even when you think that you're doing the right thing, for example, even if you think by showing up as an imposter, pretending to be someone else, that you're doing a good thing, when in reality, you're putting more things into motion against yourself than you realize. Things that you are going to have to confront or own up to later on in life. Here is something that I've noticed and observed from working with people in the whole anti-racist, quote unquote, business. That one of the first things that we will acknowledge and we will say is that we hear from people more than anything else that they cannot be their authentic self in the workplace. That's a dangerous thing. And I always say that may be true. There's still responsibility on our part to show up as ourselves. And here is what tends to happen when we don't show up as ourselves. See, every time we show up inauthentically, it creates conflict within ourselves. It creates low-grade resentment that builds up for ourselves, because none of us want to leave ourselves behind. None of us in our spirit, in our soul, want to be fake. Because every time we know we show up fake, what ends up happening is we know that we are doing it because we are afraid. And if the fear was not present, you would show up as your authentic self. So what happens as a result of you succumbing to fear every time it comes up? You alter yourself to please other people. You begin to resent yourself. And then what happens is a buildup of this happens in yourself. You start building up the resentment. Resentment turns to frustration. Frustration turns to low-grade anger. And you get to a point where one day you can't take it anymore. Can't take it anymore. And someone says something to you and you explode. You let your authentic self out. And then what happens is you end up getting in trouble. You may end up getting fired, maybe demoted. If it's a significant relationship with a significant other, the relationship breaks up. And most people would think that the reason why that happened was because of my authentic self. No, that's not the truth. The reason why it happened is because you were holding your authentic self back, causing what I call the volcano moment. The volcano moment is what happens as a result of pushing all that stuff down inside of yourself, suppressing your expression, altering your expression, working hard to please people and then not pleasing people, because that's not our job. it builds up inside of us and it becomes anger. And then on the day I call Mad Day, the day when you can't suppress it any longer, you let it all out, and then you think that the cause of the negative reaction from people is rooted in your authentic self. No. You never have been so wrong. It is not rooted in your authentic self. It is rooted in your practice, your lack of practice of accurately representing yourself. So now here's what happens. When people get whiffed of what you really think and what you really feel, after pretending and smiling in their face and making them believe that you were being sincere when you weren't, people start having to reevaluate their relationship with you because the whole time you were pretending, guess what? People were under the impression that that was your authentic self. So while you were being inauthentic, people were taking that imposter as the true you. So even though you knew you were misrepresenting yourself, the people around you did not know you were misrepresenting yourself. They thought you were accurately representing yourself. And so now, when Mad Day comes and you say what you really feel and think, people are shocked. And we have to reevaluate, rearrange, reorganize their relationship with you. And if they start acting differently towards you, it's because they're having second thoughts about you. Not because of your authentic self, but because you misrepresented your authentic self, because they thought who you were being was authentic. Because every time we show up as an imposter, we are still having a influence. And people don't necessarily think that you're faking. You are the only one who knows if you're being honest or not. You are the one who knows if you're giving an accurate representation of where you really are, what you really think, and what you really feel about situations. So when you show up as an imposter, you are sowing into your life something that you're going to have to pay for later. I know I've mentioned that before, but I keep mentioning it because there's really nothing else to talk about as it relates to this. This is what we are responsible for. Doesn't matter if we are victims of trauma, because yes, I've been a victim of trauma. Many people have been a victim of trauma. But being a victim of something does not take you off the hook for being responsible for the communication and representation of your inner reality. And the reason why that is so, even though it may sound harsh to you, it is so because no one else on the planet knows what your inner reality is but you. That being the case, no one knows what your desires are. No one knows what your wishes are. No one knows what you're trying to create into this world. No one knows what you're really feeling but you. And if you don't communicate those things to other people, and if you don't figure out how to communicate them in a way that is in your best interest, then that's on you too. So here's what I say. People say, well, I still have a hard time. I want you to get into practicing accurately representing yourself. Start small and work up big. Make it a policy that every time you open your mouth, you are checking with yourself first before you react to anything. In other words, so in life, there's reaction and then there's response. Reaction is you saying something without checking with yourself first. That's a reaction. A response is checking with yourself first before you say anything. And the reason why you should learn how to respond versus react is because when you learn how to respond, you learn how to more accurately represent your internal reality and to get in alignment with where you are internally before you open your mouth. Now, I want you to start practicing just responding, not reacting. Responding, not reacting. Checking with yourself before you say stuff. Checking with what you feel. Checking with what you think. And then aligning your answers with that so that you are in your integrity, not out of your integrity. I hope you're getting this. Work on not reacting, responding. Checking with yourself first before you give your answer. Well, you have to learn to start practicing how to accurately represent your authentic self. And the better you get at it, the smoother you get at it, you will see that you won't have to raise your voice. You won't have to be in conflict with people because people are already thinking that the person you're pretending to be is your true self. And that, my friend, is a travesty.